Hey there, welcome back. It's Michael. So I was on Discogs last week and was surprised to find this album among the top bestsellers. It's 1978's The Traveler from English folk artist, singer-songwriter Allan Taylor. And it got me thinking, why is this up there in the bestsellers among the Olivia Rodrigo and the Angine de Poitrine albums? And so I looked into it, and what happened was good old Ed Sheeran discovered this album earlier in the year. He posted about it on social media, and the BBC picked it up, interviewed Allan Taylor, did an article about it, and I think that's what started a renewed interest in this album. It showed up on Spotify, and I guess lots of folks went to Discogs in the past few weeks to grab a copy. And if you look at it now, there's been a lot of copies sold over the last few weeks. There's a couple copies up there and seems to be inflated in price. So we'll see how long that lasts, but that's kind of the way things go on Discogs. But anyways, I've been a fan of his for a while, so I thought I'd do a video and show you my Allan Taylor records. So just for a little background, so he is English. He came up on the 1960s English folk scene. He's a good guitar player, great songwriter, an excellent vocalist, has a nice, clear, smooth singing style. Seems very commercial. So, it's kind of a wonder why he didn't break out back in the day. But he did continue his career and put out wonderful albums throughout the years. So let me start at the beginning. So as I said, he came up in the 1960s English folk scene, playing alongside Burnt Jantz and Nick Drake, Al Stewart, John Martin, all those people. And so he did his time on the folk scene and was signed in 1970 or 1971, I believe, on the Liberty United Artists label. And he released his first album in 1971. It's called Sometimes. This is a UK pressing. So it was produced by Tony Cox, and the backing musicians are all for Fairport Convention. So he was good buddies with the band Fairport Convention, the famous English folk group, and they'll pop up later in the story. And if you notice on the back here, it says, "To Fairport, thanks very much, Spud." That was Allan Taylor's nickname, Spud. It's a gatefold, nice textured sleeve with the lyrics. And, if you like folk music, singer-songwriter, early 70s, it's a really great album. It didn't do much. It was released in the UK and a couple of other places, including the US, and you can find US copies pretty inexpensive these days. But yeah, it's just a lovely album, kind of innocent, kind of gentle, but with great songs. The title track Sometimes is good. The last track, The Kiss, is lovely too. And there are some other songs that evoke that, English traditional folk song style. So yeah, it's a really nice record. So this is, like I said, the UK copy on the Liberty label. And then I also have a US copy on United Artists. It's not a gatefold, no lyrics, so that's kind of a disappointment. That's what made me search out that UK copy. But this is pretty easy to find in the US. Like I said, they might have been expecting for a hit and it didn't happen. So there's quite a few of these around if you look. But yeah, if you like folk music, singer-songwriter, I do recommend it. And then we come up to his second album from 1972. This is The Lady. This one is harder to find. It only came out, I believe, in the UK and also in Japan, so pretty limited. This has a nice laminated cover, and it's another beautiful album. Some, excellent songs. There is the song Belfast 71, which talks about the beginnings of the Irish Troubles back then in the early 70s. It's one of his great songs. And some other wonderful ones like The Morning Lies Heavy and a song Let Me Be, which is a wonderful ballad as well. So, this one, if you like his stuff, definitely worth tracking down. Originally came with a printed lyric sheet, and that is The Lady from 1972. What happens next in his story is, I believe in 1972, he decides to move to the US and base himself out there in New York State. And I guess the story goes that right before he left, he was actually called up by Fairport Convention. They were going through one of their lineup changes, and they were looking for him to join. And I believe he said he might have joined under different circumstances, but since he had already made preparations to leave the UK and move to the States, he had to decline. So while he's over here in the US, he puts out this album titled The American Album. This comes out in 1973. And this is obviously, an attempt at really trying to launch him and make a name for himself. It's produced by Nick Vinette, the famous producer who was the guy who signed the Beach Boys to Capitol Records. And this is recorded with a cast of many in both Nashville and LA. So a lot of big name session artists are on this, lots of background singers. Unfortunately, this wasn't, this didn't break them. It's a good record, but I don't think the songs were there, and I don't think it was it didn't end up being the right album for him. So there's still some good stuff on here. Song My Father's Room is really good. There's also a nice character study, Lavinia Forsyth Jones. You got a remake of Belfast 71 from the last album. And this is a US copy. It does have the lyrics on the inner sleeve. I believe the UK copy is gatefold, but I don't have one of those. But yeah, I picked this up still sealed. Another one that's pretty cheap. They must have pressed a bunch of these. But I always found the cover, kind of cheesy. Wasn't the biggest fan of it. So I did eventually pick up a 1978 re-release. This is on the Rockberg label in the UK. So here it is. It's a nice little, kind of needlepoint style cover. Same album and everything, but I just thought it was a nice cover variation, so I grabbed that too. So what happens next is he eventually leaves the US in the mid-70s and ends up back in England, signs some deals with labels as a writer, and then comes up with his own band that is signed to the Chrysalis label, and they come out with this album in 1976. The band is Cajun Moon. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out as a success for Allan. There's quality music on here. This is maybe one of the most favorite things of his that he's done. I come back to this album a lot. I can see why maybe it wasn't a success. You look at this cover and the band name, you can't really tell what it is. You think it might be like Cajun or Zydeco music. And then here's the back with the other members. But it's some really wonderful songs on here, more in an Americana type vein, but there are two songs, Calling On, that leads off the album, and Misty on the Water, that definitely have that British English folk music vibe, and the rest is more Americana, but some great songs on here. Back Again, Mistress Music, and I love this album. It was released in the UK and in Europe. It's hard to find in the US, but I tracked down a copy, and like I said, I listened to this a lot. What happened is after this, during that, he apparently hurt his voice and had to rest for 3 months. That ended the momentum of the band, and he was out on his own again. In 1978, he got signed to the indie folk label Rubber Records, and that's when he puts out this album, The Traveler, the one that Ed Sheeran found and fell in love with. And that's great that he did, because this is really a stellar album. It's really excellent. It gained some notoriety at the time. It won an award at the Montreux Festival, I think in 1980. So, people got hip to it. But it's really unlike his other stuff. He's really coming into his own. The songs are all really wonderful, with more conviction than previous. It's really a master class in, songwriting and performing. There's a song that leads it off, Home State, about New York and his reminiscence of that. The title track, The Traveler, is lovely too. There's this last song, Good to See You, which has become kind of a folk music standard. Cold Hard Town, another song with bagpipes that evokes more of the British folk world, Land of the North Wind. I really love that one. So yeah, this was an excellent album, and he continues his career in 1980, again on Rubber Records with Roll on the Day. It's a strong follow-up to The Traveler. I wouldn't say it's as good, but it comes pretty close. And what's nice about this is there are some added harmony vocals this time around that work really well. And the first three tracks, Looking for You, Time, and Give a Hand, I think is a really strong start to this album. So that is a lovely one. And both this one, The Traveler and Roll on the Day, do come with lyric sheets if you're looking for the original pressings. Finally, the last one I have is from 1984. This is on the Black Crow label. It's Circle Round Again. And so what this is this him re-recording some of his older songs, giving them some new settings. It's a nice record, and I think, this was something that, some artists, did out of necessity back in the day, because all their previous albums at that time would have been deleted and hard to find. So this was a way to get his songs out there to the public again. And so after this, he has continued his career, putting out albums on his own after this. He also, in the 90s, he signs with the German audiophile label, Stockfish Records, and has put out a lot of albums through then. I haven't really heard those, but it's definitely something I need to check out. It's just, expensive to collect LPs from Germany these days. But, I'm sure there's lots of good music there. He recently retired from the road. He's 80 years old now. But I think it's really cool that, he's getting some notoriety now. And I hope people continue to discover this stuff. So thanks for checking this out, and I'll see you later.